So just to remind everyone that as we're speaking today, for those of you that are on live, that you can ask questions. You've got your question and answer feature where you should be able to request or ask questions. We have Vicki Long and Mindy Lee they will be able to watch the questions along the way. So if you have a question while one of us is presenting, feel free to go ahead and write in the question, or you can wait as well. So whichever works best for you. If you're watching this in recording, I encourage you to write down your question and email us to where we can get back to you. All right, with that, we'll get started. Today we have SHARPhub, we have Becky Airstrup and Marisol Rodriguez with us, and we're excited to see their SBIR presentation and talking about how they can support clients within our region from Oklahoma up to North Dakota. So we will be turning this over to them in just a few minutes. I want to remind everyone that's a client in the Encountering Innovation program, that the demo program with Tech Warrior Enterprise has been going for 2 weeks. They have they have additional schedule as they can next week. For those of you that have not taken advantage yet of this, we have been getting very good feedback from our clients about the demo program with John Matecki and Dan Demota with Tech Warrior Enterprise. So please make sure you take advantage of that. Just a reminder that on our Lunch and Learns coming up next week, we have EMP Shield. It's a great story of what they've done ever since they've pitched in 2018. And then on 9/11, we should be having PTAC coming to work with us, talking to us about how to do business with the government and what they can do to help support and give you information. Then the conference week, 9/18, will be tied up all week, so we will not have a lunch and learn on 9/18. And then again on 9/25, we will be back, and we have some good support resource partners that will be on for us to be able to talk to us along with what's next with our beyond Encountering Innovation. With that in mind, I don't see any questions just yet. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Becky and let her take over. Becky, thanks for joining us and looking forward to it.
Thanks so much, Alan. I think you have to tell it to stop sharing your screen.
There you go.
Okay, and now I think this is how we do it. I think it's going to work. Okay, great. Can you see my cover slide?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We're ready to go then. Well, thank you so much for letting us talk to everybody. We're really excited to have the opportunity to get the word out more across the region about this program that is funded by National Institutes of Health. So I'll go ahead and launch into it. The program is called SHARPhub. You can see it's a very long acronym. And essentially, this is a grant from the National Institutes of Health. And BBC is the company that I am the managing partner for. We're the recipient of this STTR award, along with our academic partner, the University of Kansas. And we also have academic partners at North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, and Nebraska as well. And the whole goal of this is NIH's goal to do mentoring, training, and networking to help innovators accelerate their transfer of biomedical and other life science technologies. So when I say life science, it doesn't necessarily have to be what you think of as typically drug discovery, that type of thing. It could be a software. It can be anything that you think impacts human health. So if you can make the case that impacts human health, it is potentially a candidate for assistance from SHARPhub. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what is SHARPhub, what's SBIR and STTR, and I'm going to breeze through that really quickly. So those of you already familiar, you don't have to put up with a repeat for long. Those of you not familiar may still have more questions at the end, but that's what we're here for, is to help answer those. We'll talk a little bit more about what agencies besides the NIH, National Institutes of Health, that you would expect have funding for life sciences, and how do you find the right one to fund you? And what I'm talking about here, by the way, is applicable in terms of finding the right agency, talking to them, all of that, even if your company doesn't happen to do life sciences. So a lot of what we're talking about here today is still relevant. And then we'll talk, for those of you who are in life science, how SHARPhub can help you. So as I said, the goal of this project is to provide training, including this type of assistance. And the goals of the program are to form startup companies, or if you already are a startup company, to help you be more successful in advancing toward commercialization for things that impact human health. And so if you're in any of the 5 states shown, if your company is located there and you have a project that could be considered life sciences, you're eligible for our assistance at no cost to your company. If you're outside of the life science area, BBC is happy to work with you as well. Full disclosure, in that case, there would be a fee for the service, but you know, you're not left out in the dark. There is an opportunity. So let's start a bit on SBIR and STTR. And the reason we focus a lot on this for SHARPhub is because if you're getting a company going, whether you're just very early in the formation stage out of university, or you've been going for several years, you maybe have some initial revenue, but you need money. Everybody needs money. And this is a unique program of the federal government that's aimed specifically at small business. And it's actually placed in legislation, as we'll talk about here in a second. $3.6 billion per year, so it isn't chump change. It's enough money to actually get some things done. And the intent is to support small business, to stimulate technological innovation, to develop products that have commercial merit. So all of the words in the name of the program are important to what its mission are. So if you're a small company, we'll talk a couple of minutes about eligibility that does research and development. You potentially could be funded by the SBIR STTR program. So this program has now been in place since the early 80s, and it's currently reauthorized through 2022 in its current form. And the programs are what they call set-aside. So each agency that has over $100 million of extramural R&D budget must allocate 3.2% of that toward SBIR and 0.45% if they have a budget over $1 billion to STTR. STTR, Small Business Technology Transfer, which just proves to me the government can't spell. How you get STTR out of that, I don't know. But anyway, it's a sister program. We'll talk a little bit about the differences. But for the most part today, when I talk about the programs, I'm going to just refer to SBIR because it's a lot quicker and easier to describe it that way. There are 11 agencies mandated to participate, so you can virtually anything that advances science or includes scientific discovery as part of what you're doing could potentially be funded here. The program was developed or authorized by Congress, but then the Small Business Administration oversees that program and sets the rules and regulations that we'll go over here that you're required to meet if you want to participate in the program. So you can see what those 11 agencies are here, and that gives you a quick idea as well of the range of things that they are going to be funding with this program. So almost anything you can think of should be funded by one of these agencies. The ones on the left are the size that they require both to participate in both programs, SBIR and STTR. The smaller ones on the right participate only in SBIR program. You could see the amount of funding that they had in 2019 for each of these. And another small distinction that we'll briefly refer to later is that some of these agencies, despite the fact you've heard of it as SBIR grant program, do issue grants and others issue contracts. So it's the mechanism that they use to issue the funds, and it really does make a difference in how you think about writing your proposal. So that's why we even mention it here. So, you know, why would you even want to think about this program? Well, you guys, if you want to take something to market, you want to change the world with what you're developing, you have to have money to commercialize. And You probably have already gotten familiar with doing debt funding or equity funding where you give up part of your company. But this is a novel type of funding. It's non-dilutive. Not only is it non-dilutive, which means that you don't give up any equity in your firm, it is also a non-repayable, non-refundable, so you don't have to pay back any of the debt. So it's a unique category of funding. But remember, it is just one element of a funding strategy. It isn't your entire strategy to get your company to market. And all of you who have something in the technological realm understand this concept of the valley of death, where you have something but it's not proven far enough that investors are willing to dive in and take that risk. So if you talk to venture capital, they're saying things to you like, why don't you come back? This is really exciting, but why don't you come back when you have your more data, when you have your patents, when you have your first customer? And those are the things that you need the money to accomplish. That's where SBIR and STTR step in and help you advance your technology. Now, it won't get you all the way over that bridge that you see there, but it will get you quite a bit of the ways across to where you can then combine it with your other funding strategies to finally get to the market. The program is competitive, so you're applying against other companies. The success rate for phase 1 is approximately 12 to 15%, depending on the agency. For phase 2, it's higher because you have to have had a phase 2 first, but it's about 40%. And remember that if you work with somebody like SHARPhub or with your SBDCs or some of the organizations that can help you with this, your chance is going to be higher than that just because you're going to do everything right. There's a lot of requirements. It's sometimes difficult to do everything correctly, and that alone is going to help you a lot. Phase 1 that I referred to is really the feasibility study, and that's where you prove that the technology could actually advance toward a product that's commercializable. Usually you'll get about $150,000 to $250,000 and 6 months to prove feasibility on your technology. And when you're successful there, you then go to the phase 2, which is more full research, where you actually develop a prototype in many cases, or develop your software for testing, or do some animal trials for your drug. There's a number of things that can constitute phase 2. That's typically going to be about $1 million to $1.5 million and a 2-year time frame. But remember that they talk about this program, anytime you hear of it, as being a 3-phase program. So you have the 2 phases where the agencies provide you funding, but then you get to the stage that they emphasize very heavily, but you're on your own as far as financing, and that's phase 3. That's the commercialization stage. And at that stage, I know a lot of you are very interested in Department of Defense, and Department of Defense buys stuff, so they could potentially be your phase 3 partner. But when they buy in phase 3, they're not using SBIR, STTR dollars to purchase. Otherwise, you can sell to the private sector as well, and you're responsible for developing that. So this just shows you the kind of time frame that you're looking at, that you're looking at what you want your technology to be in about 3 years or so. So wherever you are now, what advancements using science do you have to get it to where it needs to be at that point in time? And do remember that since this is a 2-phase program, that there will be, in most cases, a small gap between phase 1 and phase 2 where you're not collecting grant or contract revenue, so you need to plan for that as a company. There are some programs the agencies have to help mitigate that, but it is something as business owners you have to be aware of and plan into the planning process. So what do you need if you're going to partake in this program? So in order to even apply, you have to have developed a small business that is set up with an address, a company bank account, and a number of registrations. And this is, by the way, one of the partners of the SBDCs and of BBCs, as well as the PTACs. They're very, very helpful at helping you get your registrations put together. So there's a lot of organizations and structure that can help you with this part. And there are some additional requirements depending on what agency you're applying for. I've got listed here that with grants.gov and eCommons, the ones you have to have for NIH, but if you're going for Department of Defense, there's DoD specific and there's NSF specific as well. You have to have a small business actually formed. It's got to be for profit, although not profitable necessarily. You have to be U.S. owned and controlled with at least 50% of the ownership by U.S. citizens or permanent residents. So 49% could be owned by international entities or other foreign entities, but over half has to be owned by U.S. citizens. You have to have fewer than 500 employees with a company located in the U.S. and the R&D work that you're proposing to do done here in the U.S. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have foreign affiliates or people that you work with elsewhere, but all of the work has to be done on U.S. soil, even the consulting work. So the final thing that sometimes can hang people up a little bit is you do have to have company-controlled research space for the grant project. You don't have to have it until the time you get the award, but you have to have identified it. So you're going to have a space to do the work in. You're also going to have a project team that's appropriate to do the work that you're proposing to be done. So remember that for project success, you'll have your technical lead on the project that's called the principal investigator. You may have advisors, consultants, you may have subcontractors, including universities. You have the other employees within the company, but they each, if you're going to build them on the project, they will have a specifically well-defined role of what they're accomplishing on this project that advances the technical and science on the project. So advisors typically are unpaid people. You need them to help advise you as a company, but typically they're not going to have a paid role on the project. But you can let the reviewers know you have those available to you, which makes you a stronger company. So the project team will consist of your employees, which is typically going to include the principal investigator, although as I'll mention in a minute, the PI could be at the university if you do an STTR. You'll have other personnel. You also can bring in consultants and subcontractors that bring specific equipment, experience, expertise, facilities, IRB committees, IACUC committees, things that you need for that type of activities. You can acquire those here. And then you have the other significant contributors that I mentioned that are contributing to your company, but they're not putting measurable effort on this particular project and getting paid. So you got your people in place, now you need facilities. So you have to have that company-controlled research space suitable to do the work proposed. So those of you in software, for example, need much different facilities than somebody who's doing drug development. So you've got to consider the work that you're doing. Some of that, the work that is on the company side of the budget, and we'll talk about that here in a second, has to be done in facilities that are controlled by the company. So you have to have a lease or a rental agreement, something that states that you have the right to work in that space while you're there doing your work. The other resources I talked about would be things like your scientific advisory board and your commercialization and business resources. Now, you also need to have a product that you're envisioning. So remember that SBIR is always product development. It isn't academic research that's for the sake of the research. You have to identify something with an intended use and a problem, because if there isn't a problem that one of the agencies funding this has, there's not going to be anything for you to apply towards. So you need to understand what the problems are that your technology is solving. And what do you still have left to do? And SBIR, STTR will fund that product development, but remember, it has to be based on technological innovation. And it also has to have a commercialization strategy. And early on in the project, you may not know all the details on that, but you at least have to have a business model where you understand what your plan is to get it out to the marketplace. When you get to that bigger phase 2, you're going to need more detail than that. But if you have, if you understand what your path to market will be, that's basically, in most cases, what you need to know for phase 1. Then you have to have a specific project, like I said, that's based on technological innovation. And I always ask entrepreneurs, and they're always enthusiastic and excited. I say, how many of you are 100% positive your technology is going to work? And everybody raises their hand. Well, the truth is that if that were true, this would not be the appropriate funding for you, because they are willing to fund risk. So there has to be something technologically that may not work. That's why they're willing to fund it when other investors and that type of thing won't. If you're really 100% sure, then you should be going to VC or other kinds of investment. You have to look at also, is your project revolutionary? And are you totally changing paradigms technically? Or are you evolving something that already exists to do it better, to do it in a new way? All of those are appropriate for SBIR, but it depends on the agency, the way they look at that. It isn't just for commercializing technology that you already have developed. Do understand that. This is to develop something for commercialization. And when we say commercialization, that means it's got to have some kind of commercial potential. And here we're defining commercialization as your ability to provide a solution to somebody and they're going to pay you for it. So in other words, the problem that they have has to be important enough they're willing to pay to have that problem solved. That also means that you have to have some kind of a viable business model for your company so that you're able to get it from the point that it's in your lab or on your computer or whatever until you can get it out to solve the problem that people are facing. And you can do this with two mechanisms, and I've alluded to that so far here. One, small business innovation research, and one, small business technology transfer. And this table is kind of a quick cheat sheet for you about what the differences are. But let's boil it down to the primary difference is the relationship that your company, the small business concern, has with a nonprofit research institution, which is usually a university or a clinic, something of that sort. But the applicant is always going to be the company. It's never going to be the university. It's never going to be Mayo Clinic. It's always your company. Under SBIR, they allow that if you're able to do 100% of the work with your people and facilities, you're able to do that. SBIR can be all within your company. However, if you do need to add partners for special facilities or expertise to round out your team, you can spend up to 1/3 of a phase one budget by accessing consultants and subcontractors. And those could include a university or nonprofit research institution. So in SBIR, you can work with the university, but you don't have to. The other thing is if you're doing SBIR, that principal investigator I talked about that leads the project has to be primarily employed by the company at the time of award. And that means that it precludes full-time employment elsewhere. And that means that at the time of award, that individual, if they're at the university, for example, would have to take a leave of absence or somehow be primarily 51% employed at the company. That can sometimes be a bit of an obstacle as well. Now, do understand you don't have to do that until you get the award, but you still have to have identified it and have that commitment from the person. For STTR, the difference is that your company still will receive the award, but you are required to subcontract up to at least 30% of the budget to an outside nonprofit research institution, a primary institution. You still have to do in your company 40% of the work, so you still have to have people and facilities. The other major distinction is that principal investigator, the technical guru on the project, can be located at the university. In that case, that person is paid for under the subcontract at the university. They're not a company employee. They just agree to be the PI. By the way, National Science Foundation is an exception to that. They don't ever let the PI be outside the company. You have to work for the company if you do an NSF grant. So, you know, if you don't have a good, strong PI that is working for your company or willing to at the time, if you don't have enough qualified scientists, if you need access to unusual facilities, those are reasons you might want to consider doing an STTR. And if you are, any of you on the call, from a university at the current time, remember to consider the IP policy of your university and make sure that you're talking to them very early on. For those of you with companies working with universities, you also will have to consider all these things. And university personnel can serve in a role as a consultant as well. They don't necessarily just have to be a subcontractor, but you have to consider their conflict of interest policy and talk to their tech transfer office. I mentioned that there's a difference between grants and contracts. Contracting agencies are those simply that buy stuff. And, you know, that's not 100% true across the board, but essentially they're using an acquisition mechanism to fund you to do work that they establish the requirements for. And it's highly focused topics, and there are more fiscal requirements that you have. One of the key differences is that there's no investigator-initiated, typically, topics under contracting agencies, they're telling you what they want because they want you to develop something they can buy to solve their problem for the warfighter or whatever. And granting agencies are those typically that don't buy things. So they're like National Institutes of Health, USDA, National Science Foundation. There they tend to have broad buckets of topics. So like NIH, for example, the institutes like National Cancer Institute or Heart, Lung, and Blood, they look at a topic like that's that broad and say, if you have something that helps solve a human health problem in this broad topic area, you tell us what you can do. It is a bit more flexible, a bit easier in terms of reporting requirements, but you don't have any phase 3 opportunity with granting agencies. They're not going to buy it. Where contracting agencies are a likely phase 3 buyer for you. The other main difference is that in grants, not only are they investigator-initiated, but they're reviewed with external peer reviewers. So you're going to have external peer reviewers who are giving the score and helping determine if your proposal will get funded, which means that you can talk to the people within the agency at any point in time because they're not on the review panel. So you can talk to the personnel, the program managers, basically at any time. Under contracts, on the other hand, once the topic actually comes out, because it's an acquisition mechanism, the program officers, the otherwise called TPOC, technical points of contact, are also reviewers, so you can't talk to them once those topics have actually hit the street. So you have to be aware of the timeframes when you're allowed to talk to these individuals. So like I said, you've got to think about the differences of the internal versus external review, when you can talk to these individuals. Are you essentially developing a commercialization plan so they can buy it? Are you having to develop a commercialization plan so the general public can buy it? Those are distinctions that you have when you're writing for the different types of agencies. So then comes the big question that you have is how do you find the right agency and the right topic? Now I'm going to focus for a few minutes on a couple of agencies that do fund life science. One thing I want to stress is that you can't tell from an agency's name necessarily the things that they fund. So Department of Defense funds a huge amount of medical and medical-related types of technologies, as does, of course, National Institutes of Health, National Science Foundation, and, you know, USDA, for example, funded a client of mine that develops assistive technologies for disabled people, and she made the case because a mission of USDA is to improve access to rural environment and improve the rural economies. She made the case that this tent that she was developing that could be deployed from a wheelchair and used by a disabled person to camp, that it helped meet that mission. They agreed with it. So if I told you, or asked you to guess who funded a tent for disabled people, I doubt you would have said USDA. So that's why, you need to broaden your thinking a little bit and think about what are their missions and goals and how can you help solve them. So, for example, National Science Foundation has the broadest mission you can imagine. They fund motherhood and apple pie and everything in between. To promote the progress of science, advance national health, prosperity, welfare, secure national defense. It's like everything. So the way that they really decide what they're going to fund is that they're looking for things that are really transformative with a high risk. So they're looking to fund things that are going to have a complete paradigm shift. If what you're coming to them with is to improve on something that already exists or to advance something to the next level, they probably aren't going to be interested. They're also really interested in helping you solve problems that have a big impact. So where there's a really big unmet need and that there's an opportunity for commercialization. So remember that if you're going for NSF, you've got to demonstrate those things or they're not apt to fund you. They won't fund basic research. They won't fund incremental work. If you can't make the case of how you're going to be a commercial success, they won't fund you. They basically set up their topics under these various categories that you can see here. And there are so many technologies there that medical can fit into, and some of them are really obvious, but others, for example, chemical technologies could include medical and that type of thing. So NSF is a great place for you to go if you have something in that life science space. DoD is also a great space. What they're doing is essentially improving the environment and the safety and effectiveness of the warfighter. Ultimately, it comes down to, it's mission-driven. That's what they're looking for. And in order to solve all these problems, they have a variety of components. The most common ones we all have heard of are the services like Air Force, Army, Navy, but they also have a number of other groups like Defense Health Agency, Chemical and Biological Defense, and others that also fund SBIR and put out topics that they're attempting to address problems. So the issue with DoD is if you have the greatest idea in the world for say a biodegradable bullet casing, and DoD should be interested, unless they put out a solicitation that requests that, you don't have anything to reply to. So it's a different story than going for those granting agencies. And the topics are typically put in by their engineers and technical points of contact. So these people, a lot of which this particular group here today is excellent at getting you these connections, and the conference is coming up. It's a great place to do this. You can talk to these people about their potentially putting topics in for you if you don't see anything that DoD is putting out. Quickly on NIH will fund anything that impacts human health. So remember, they have environmental health sciences, they have alternative medicine, they have a variety of things that might not necessarily occur to you. And they also fund things because it really is health and human services. NIH is the biggest component. But CDC, FDA, and things like Administration for Community Living also fund under Health and Human Services. It's an interesting organization because they divided into 27 separate institutes. Remember, it's National Institutes of Health. And each of them has their own priorities and budget that are typically laid out like you see here. So their SBIR and STTR budgets are determined by their extramural R&D budgets, and each institute controls their own funding. So it's incumbent on you to figure out which of those is going to be willing to share their funding with to solve your problem. And they've got some interesting twists as well, because they've done some things like combine the phase 1 and phase 2 in what are called a fast track that lets you skip that gap between phase 1 and phase 2. They also have a mechanism called directive phase 2 that allows you to entirely skip the phase 1. A number of components at DoD, by the way, also have that as an option. So it's really important as you're starting to work with these agencies that you understand what they offer. They may be really good at explaining to you what they've got to offer or not, so you want to be advocating for yourself and doing your homework and knowing, what the opportunities are. Because, for example, their agencies are allowed under congressional authorization to issue up to 3 phase 2s. Now that's significant if you start to think about that a phase 2 is $1.5 million or more. So NIH does that by issuing what they call phase 2Bs. So after you do all the phase 2 work, you can get another $3 million for up to another 3 years. That's a significant amount for development. So SBIR can take you quite a ways down that development path if you know how to use their funding. So remember that anything they're looking at, though, has to impact human health, and they look at clinical outcomes. So how do you figure out whether these or one of the others we've talked about is where you should go? The official website for the SBIR program is called SBIR.GOV, and you go to that. If you go to this website, you're able to go up to the top, select awards, and take a look at the awards that have been given by different agencies in your category. So, for example, I want to know who funds vaccines. I put vaccine in, and it's kind of interesting to see the results because DoD, National Science Foundation, Department of Commerce, and NIH have all funded vaccines. That's kind of an interesting thing. It might open my thinking about what agencies might fund what I'm interested in doing. And as I dive into each one of these, so I click in at the top, it's going to give me the full abstract and all the information about that grant award. That's also very valuable because those companies are likely your competitors. They're already successful at SBIR. They're probably continuing to go for it. The agencies have already funded them, so this is a great place for you to do some competitive intelligence and know what else is out there. So just a quick little list here. I'd suggest that you follow this assignment list and take a look at who might be interested in funding you. Some may be obvious, some, like I said, may not be so obvious. But there's a lot of opportunity out there. So we're gonna go into very briefly talking about how you can get assistance, and then we'd like to take any questions that you have. If you don't happen to be a life science company, here's where you can click in, and if you fill out this brief form, we'll talk to you because then we have some background about it. No obligation. We can talk to you about your program project, and BBC is happy to direct you from there. If you have life sciences, my colleague Marisol Rodriguez would like to tell you about how you can join the SHARPhub company program that will provide all these services at no cost to you. So Marisol? I think you might be muted.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me now? I think I'm good.
Yes. Yes,
awesome.
We can hear you.
Okay, so would you help me move the slides, Becky?
Sure, absolutely.
Please. Okay, thank you. Alrighty, so if you happen to be a company that is developing life science related technologies and is located in one of our 5 SHARPhub states, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma, we have excellent news for you. There is help available to help you develop and work in the SBIR STTR proposal that you are going to submit or you are planning to submit to any of the agencies, especially NIH, to develop your product, to prove feasibility, and all of those concepts that Becky was talking about. As you can see here, these are the services that you can take advantage of as if you are accepted to be part of one of the SHARPhub companies. We do help with companies in the writing the proposal, development the proposal. We also have a consultant that is going to help, that is helping companies develop commercialization plans that they can use for SBIR or STTRs, and also they can have that commercialization plan as a tool for business development. We do provide networking opportunities for the companies that are part of the SHARPhub program, and in general, the main goal is that we want to start creating an ecosystem that is going to provide opportunities, education, networking opportunities to innovators and researchers across the SHARPhub states. Next slide, Becky. Thank you. So to apply for, if you are interested, and to apply for SHARPhub training is very easy. We do have an application as well, but some of the components that we take into consideration when we are evaluating companies that we are, want to be part of the SHARPhub program is attendance to training, and we are scheduling some SBIR, STTR training coming up, and we will be happy to share that information with all of you. It has to be a life science innovation, and it has to be located in one of the SHARPhub states. Of course, since we are funded by NIH, the technology somehow has to fit the NIH, which means life science. And important as well is that the company is planning to submit an SBIR or STTR proposal at some point in the future. So we do have clients that are companies already that they have the product that they want to apply for. We also are working with some researchers that they are considering to apply in the future. They don't have the company formed yet, but they have a research that they want to prove feasibility, and they want to expand and take advantage of the SBIR STTR funding. If you want to apply, like I say, please go to our website, and you can see it in the slide right now. And under company, there is the application, so please do fill it out, and we will be more than happy to talk to you. The SBIR, the application for the SBIR and STTR is a very complex process, and SHARPhub is here to help you. So please don't hesitate to contact us. The last thing that I want to mention is that in addition to assisting the companies that are interested in SBIRs, we do want to create an ecosystem of organizations and companies, and to help us accomplish that goal, we have this tool that we call the SHARPhub Resource Navigator, and please go to our website, and the resources is listed right there. So if you are an organization that helps innovators with different services, maybe you have a space, you provide a web lab facilities, please do consider in submitting your information for this resource navigator. And we also have the Small Business Development Centers, the Procurement Technical Assistance Office. So all of these resources that entrepreneurs can go to if they have questions about any of the different steps that is required to start a business. We don't want to duplicate services. We are all about collaboration and working together, because we all have the same goal, is job creation and economic development for the Midwest. Alrighty, so with that, please let us know if you have any questions, and take a couple of minutes to answer, to help us with this survey that we have on the screen right now. Okay, Becky, it's up to you.
Thanks, Marisol. So what we'd like to do now is, Alan, if there are any questions that people ask during the session, we'd love to answer those.
So Becky, the first question we have, it says, I have been told that submitting a proposal is a waste of time due to any solicitation being created for a specific company.
I think what you're referring to is Department of Defense, where a lot of people wonder if topics are, quote, rigged. So even what I was talking about is you develop relationships with the agencies. One of your goals is to get it rigged for you, so that they're putting in a topic that you help them write the white paper. But rigged is really the wrong word when it comes to SBIR and STTR, because remember, for most topics, they're going to give 2 or 3 awards on a phase 1, and then they may down select in the phase 2 below that, but that means only one of the ones that they award in the phase 1 was the one that they had in mind. So they're going to give some other people opportunities and chances. Now, especially if you already have a relationship going with them, that's going to help as well, because you're a known quantity. Even if you're going against someone else who's a known quantity, I think it really gives you an edge. So, you know, with DoD, and again, that's where the organization and countering innovation and all that can really work with you too. Getting those relationships and getting to know the people puts you in the best position there. But I would say, just quickly, my advice, if you see a topic that's appropriate for you and you don't know that particular component, be sure that you talk to them during the open period. There's a period of time where NIH puts out, not NIH, I'm sorry, where the deadline's coming up and we're working on grants. I got NIH on the brain, where they put out the topics, but you can't submit yet, so it's called the open period. And if you take advantage of that open period, you can talk to the TPOC and find out if what you're doing is suitable, if it meets the needs that they have, and that's going to also have them know you. And if they're interested and excited in what you're doing, that's going to help you when the proposals are reviewed as well. So that's a quick bit of advice.
So the next question is, does SHARPhub have resources to help with FDA approval?
Yes, we do. So once you're accepted as a SHARPhub company, you saw there was kind of that wheel with the different areas that we provide assistance. We do have mentoring assistance in specific areas. So once you apply, we determine here's the things that you need assistance with, and we can provide a resource. A certain number of hours or amount of effort is provided under the program at no charge. So we can provide that kind of assistance, yes.
Okay. I think that's all the questions we have currently. Let's see, let me check the chat. No, that's questions. We have one of the questions we have is for us is on the recording of this. Mindy, someone's asking for how they could, if I got it right, how they would be able to watch this again. And I think they just go back to the link, but if you'll answer that, that'd be great.
Yeah, so this webinar will be placed on our website at kansas.sbdc.net/tech. And so that link I will actually send out. Everybody who attended today will get a copy of this presentation, a direct link to the recorded webinar, and you'll also receive a survey assessment just to kind of go over what your thoughts were on the presentation today.
Thank you. I saw part of a question, and now I see just for Texas. So I don't know. I don't know what the question was. I missed it. Do you have any referrals for Texas?
Maybe if they're wondering, since Texas isn't a SHARPhub company, if they, unfortunately, if you're in Texas, you could certainly access assistance through BBC. I can also potentially introduce you to some of the Texas resources. But what you'd have to do is fill out the BBC assessment form. We could talk to you and try to either work with you or get you the assistance that you need. But it can't be through SHARPhub, unfortunately.
So, Becky, I think the best advice would be that they need to move to Kansas. That would be the right answer.
Where the SBDCs are the best in the country.
I'm teasing, Bijo. I think the reason, could you talk just a second as to why you believe that the resource is what it is as far as your assistance from Oklahoma to North Dakota? I'm guessing
Sure.
I know, but.
Well, NIH established that there are regions, 4 regions in the United States, and they call them IDEA regions. And of course, I'm not going to remember exactly what, everything's an acronym, you know, or as they say in DoD, the SBIR is full of PLAs, 3-letter acronyms. But anyway, enough of that. Remind me the question again. I just had a senior moment.
Just why your assistance that you have is from Oklahoma to North Dakota.
Sure. So states were identified that are underrepresented in terms of NIH funding and commercialization. There are 4 regions: Northeast, Southeast, West, and Central region, which is our group of states. And if you look at the amount of NIH funding that comes for academia, SBIR, and other resources, it's historically very low in those states. So NIH put funding through different institutes and centers and programs into boosting the performance of those IDEA states through a number of different programs, including the IDEA Hub program. So, you know, if you happen to be in one of the other regions, Texas is not underrepresented. Bijo does too good of a job down there, I guess, and they're not underrepresented. So, but that's the primary reason. It's also, it goes along with the same kind of focus that they have on other underrepresented groups, hub zones and that type of thing, but they're trying to improve performance.
Great, thank you. So I think that's, for the most part, that's all the questions that I see. I see a question on contact information, and we have, and I'm sure in your presentation, but also in ours, there we go, we'll have the contact information. So we, as Mindy mentioned, we will be sending out the information for everyone that's registered and attending. You'll get the presentation, so you'll be able to reach out to Becky and Marisol. We're going to shift gears since we're running close to 1. Did I hear somebody? Any other questions?
There is another question asking if the services are free for small businesses located in the states, in those states, in the region.
Well, they are. You're talking about from Oklahoma to North Dakota?
Correct.
The services are free as long as you're eligible according to that eligibility criteria. The primary one is that you have to plan at some point to form a company, and you have to have some life science application.
Good. So I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you a question, Becky. What's the chance that you would be able to, you and Marisol could go back and take a real life client and be able to give us a case study of what assistance, maybe you have to anonymize it, but in a way that we could understand some of the assistance that you're doing and some of the success from that assistance in a later lunch and learn. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So
happy to do that.
Okay, great.
If you're looking for examples, we could bring somebody from Kansas that's been in the program perhaps to talk about it as well. So somebody like the audience.
Great. So I'll tell everyone that's on the line, one of the things we're going to do because of these lunch and learns, they're a hard break. We have to get to them and we got to get them done. But they've been a great program for us. So I've learned a lot from doing these. I've never done this before. Greg Jordan gave us the idea, and so he gets all the credit for that. What we are going to do after encountering innovation, we already have one scheduled, but we will continue these. I don't know if we'll continue them weekly, but we are going to continue them on some periodical, predictable basis because of things like this with SHARPhub. We have several programs, Department of Energy, Department of Health, DHS, Homeland Security, sorry, got the wrong name, Department of Homeland Security. So we're going to be doing the lunch and learns ongoing. So we will be glad to invite you back. I think one of the biggest requests we have are case study examples for people to understand some of the services and what's going on. So we thank you very much. Great information. And I'm glad we have it recorded where I can go back and take more notes. Okay, so we're going to shift gears right quick. And yes.
There's another question real quick.
Sure.
Is the assistance limited by hours, or would you do all that is needed for a submission?
There's no specific hourly limitation. Obviously, at some point, we have to make a determination if it's appropriate. If the reason it's taking so long is because what you're doing isn't really appropriate, then at that point, we might terminate it, but there's no specific limitation.
Is that it? Okay, so if some more come up, we can, hopefully you'll hang on. Our part hopefully won't take but just a few more minutes. We'll try to get into this. All right, so you've stopped sharing, so I'll share, right? So let me get all this stuff off the screen. Okay. Did I do that right? Okay, so you're seeing our screen, right? The deadlines. So the deadline, wanting to remind everyone on the deadlines with encountering innovation, your bluffs, all of you that have edited your bluffs, we have those online. So if you go to encountering innovation and the innovator bluff tab, you will see the bluffs. We have them by tech category for 2020 for this year. And then we have all the bluffs from 2019 and 2018, and we've gone back and picked up a portion of 2017. The reason being 2017, we did not require a bluff at the beginning. We did not know that it existed until the conference was over. So we are using that. We've sent that to DefenseWorks. They've reviewed the historical bluffs, and they've requested they've given us a list of 10 companies that they would like to see at this event. So just letting you know, we are continuing to support and work with everyone beyond the conference, and that's a perfect example. Secondly, we've sent this year's link to the Bluffs to our Tech Scouts. So as we're reaching out to them to get them to tell us if they're attending or not, we are using the Bluffs as one of the reasons or one of the ways they can look into the conference to where they can gain interest and attend. Number two, your September 4th, you have as our deadline for your quad chart and your information paper as you're working with your tech coach. And then September 9th for your pitch deck. If you haven't already, by today's the last day. Let's see, I think it's, oh, I thought I did. Okay. Today is the last day that we have for our pitch prep with Jack Harwell for this week. He will be unavailable next week. So for those of you that are still playing catch up, we will work on setting up some times for you, for those that are not in Texas or Oklahoma. Texas and Oklahoma, we've checked, are both setting up their pitch practice program. So make sure to reach out to Barbara Bonner or Bijo for Texas. And, one more reminder. We need you to register if you're coming. I mean, if you're attending as a pitch or a poster board, we need you to register by August 31st because that will make the roll up into the platform much easier and makes things work for us. In return, you will get access to the platform to where you can look through and be able to get all your information set up. It's a fairly simple process, but you're going to want to get registered to where you can get that taken care of. August 31st is Monday, so that's just around the corner. A reminder that in your OneDrive, you should have your edited copy. If you're working through OneDrive, everything you're doing is updated. So your quad chart, your information paper, pitch deck, poster board, and point of contact form. This year we've added the point of contact form because all of our tech scouts ask for if they want your information, they want to see your point of contacts. We have heard, and I'll repeat it for those that haven't heard me say this, we have some people seem to be a little concerned that someone would ask for the point of contact from either an SBIR that they worked or that they've got a contract with Army or whatever it is you've got. These are significant point of contacts that they're requesting in order to be able to reach out to them to gain understanding of you and your innovation. As much as you're comfortable sharing those, that's what it's about. I have never heard of any other issue where the point of contact was a problem. The point of contact, we have an example here. Fill out, you've got it where you see the question or the contact information, the request on one side, and then the completion on the other. Next week we have, as we said, EMP Shield will be giving us updates. We will be doing, the week after will be PTAC, the conference, and then we will be coming back together again. One other, Bill, are you on? I don't think I see Bill. He's probably at one of our pitch preps that's online. Oh, I know what it is. We have altered or moved our FAST grant pitch. Our FAST grant SBIR, as we called it, 201 training that was targeted specifically for the SBDC counselors. After a survey that just completed, we are moving to Tuesday at 1 p.m., Tuesday Central Time, Tuesday 1 p.m. Central Time. I got a headache and apparently it's fogging me pretty well. So I'm trying my best to get through this, sorry. But it will be Tuesday at 1 p.m. We seem to have a little bit of fatigue going back to back from the lunch and learn to that. So we've moved it just to let you know. Mindy, can you give them or share with them or help with how they would need to register for that?
Yeah, so I will be sending out, in addition to a copy of this webinar, I will also be sending out in that same email the link to sign up for that webinar on Tuesday.
Great, thank you very much. Vicki, have I covered what we need to cover for encountering innovation?
The only other thing I can think of, Alan, was the demo on next Thursday of the platform.
Okay, when are we going to, that they would help me remember, when would they have access to see that?
Well, Johnson County was going to set up a demo
Right.
on Thursday the 3rd. And
okay.
It's actually going to be a webinar. So they'll be sending me a link and we'll get it out to all of our encountering
That's right. Okay.
Participants.
So what Vicki's talking about, we will have an access to where you can, it won't be a live demo that they can ask questions on, will it? It'll be a recorded demo, right?
I believe so.
Okay, so there'll be a recorded demo. One thing I will tell you that we've got in the platform, you will have the lobby and the information desk. When you go online, you'll be able to see the different places you can go. And the very top one is lobby/information desk. So no matter where you're at, there will be somebody sitting in the lobby information desk to where if you get lost, we really want to take care of the innovator that is at the last minute thinks they're lost. We don't think you will be, but we're preparing in case that happens, that you can always go to the lobby information desk and tell them, I'm supposed to be pitching in 5 minutes. Here's who I am. Here's where I'm supposed to be. So we should have you in good hands to where you'll be able to see this, the virtual conference, just like you were there in person. Only thing better is that virtually you'll be able to get to that room instead of having to run down the hall and take the elevator or the escalator and then run down the hall again. So hopefully that'll be good. Any other questions, or have we covered everything?
There are a couple of questions, Alan.
Okay.
For the Encountering Innovation admission, we have one presentation with 2 people. Do I need to purchase 1 or 2 admission tickets?
So from what I remember, if you're presenting all on the same camera, the same location, that's not necessary. If you have a second person that's attending the conference and presenting with you, from what I remember, you could double check with Johnson County where you do the registration. They've got where you can ask questions to Valerie. So you should be able to ask that question to confirm it. My best guess answer is that you would have a general admission, the $99 for the second person. But the good news is that gives you all the access to where you should be able to attend and do all the educational components as well. But I'm not sure if I've answered that correctly. Does that sound right, Vicki?
I believe that if they're going to be on the same camera and they're only going to be participating in the pitch presentation, then you would not have to have an additional registration, general admission ticket for that individual. But if that individual wants to participate in any of the other activities that are taking place, then they would have to have a general admission ticket, which is $99.
So I think from what I'm understanding, every IP address costs us money with the platform. So basically, if you're in a different IP address, the platform has to set and do things. So it costs us to work with them with every IP address. That's the best I can explain. I hope that took care of it. Any other questions?
Yes. Is the platform view different for scouts, coaches, and attendees?
Is the platform view
different for scouts, coaches, and attendees?
So I'm not sure I understand the question. I'll answer it this way. Our tech scouts, everyone will be able to go to your booth, to the networking sessions, to the educational programs. Tech Scouts are the only ones allowed in the pitch room. So along with the client's tech coach. So every client, every pitcher that is pitching has a tech coach. Bijo has in Texas has 3. So all 3 tech coaches along with the client are in the pitch room with the Tech Scouts. But the Tech Scout pitch room is private. Just like your documents, one of the things we have been explaining, your pitch deck, your quad chart and your information paper are considered private presentations to the Tech Scouts. Your poster board is public. It was public in the years past because it was in a public room, in a public venue. It's a public document now because it's going to be in a public display virtually. The same. We are working on, and we will come back to you and request. We plan to make your bluff a permanent staple on our website, and we want to be able to attach or give whoever's looking at your bluff the ability to access or review your poster board. So we will work with you on that after encountering innovation. That is one of the things we believe that can help market your technology and help you connect with others. So it's a beginning of our next step for us. So I hope that answered the question as far as what you'll see. We've got certain things that are segregated to where it's only private, and then everything else is public. Vicki, is that?
The way I would put it is that the general view will be the same for everyone, but then there may be certain pieces depending on your role in the event will vary.
Every innovator will be able to, every innovator and resource partner, those that are attending the conference will be able to set up their booth. So when you go to your site, your page, if you will, you'll be able to add documents. You'll be able to share links to videos, your demo. You can record your demo. You can record a testimony. You can do things and put in the website on your poster board. I'm sorry, on your booth. I misspoke, including your poster board. But that information is available at your booth. It won't be part of your networking presentation in the conference room. But when someone sees you from your poster board or your demo, they'll be able to go with you to your booth and be able to see other information that you have. So this is really a trade show as well as it is a pitch conference. Is that all the questions?
Yes, I believe it is.
Okay. I apologize for my fogginess with my headache. They tend to come more often during this time of the year. And today it just happened to sync up with this webinar. So Mindy, thank you for hosting for us. Becky and Marisol, we really look forward to continuing this relationship and building it with our clients. We have a lot of life science and medical, so we're looking forward to that. And everyone that's on, you'll get the slide deck as well as the information Mindy's talked about. Please do us a favor. When you get this information, would you please take the time to click on the satisfaction survey and give us some feedback? We're getting very good feedback. The feedback we're getting is good marks, good information, but it's pretty thin. So I know I am bad at filling out a survey. It's very few questions, but if you'll take the time to respond when Mindy sends that out, we would really appreciate that. We thank you all for participating. We hope you make it a great weekend, and we'll see you next week with EMP Shield. And then in the meantime, if you get a chance and can join us on Tuesday at 1 p.m., we'll have our 201, SBIR 201, if you will. Take care.